Welcome to the She Hit Refresh podcast, a podcast for women aged 30 and up who want to fast track their move abroad. My name is Seppi, rhymes with Peppy, and I'm your host. If you've been dreaming of moving abroad but feel like you're too old, this is too crazy, or you're just too overwhelmed by all the information out there, this podcast is your sign that it's not too late. Each week, you'll hear inspiring stories from women who have done just that, made their move abroad, and are thriving. Before we dive in, I just want to give a special thanks to this season's sponsor, International Living, for making this season possible. Today's episode is a really special one because we are bringing back one of your favorite guests, Lori L. Tharps, and this is her third time on the podcast. Lori first joined us back in 2021 in episode 9, where we talked to her literally 9 days before she was set to move from the U.S. to Spain. We re-released that episode this season, so be sure to check it out. We also had her back again for a second time where we followed up with her 6 months after her move to Spain to see how her new life abroad was going. And now we're here nearly 4 years after her move to hear how things have unfolded since making that bold move abroad. If you don't know Lori already, she's an award-winning author, journalist, former tenure professor, and literary influencer and activist who uses her voice and platform to amplify the work of BIPOC writers around the world. She's the founder of the Read, Write, and Create Sanctuary, which is a membership community for BIPOC women writers who take their writing life seriously. She's also one of my business besties. Lori moved to Spain and is practically my neighbor now. She lives here in Malaga, and we meet every other week to talk about life and also running our businesses. Today, Lori is here to talk about what life is really like 4 years after her move to Spain, how her professional path has evolved, how she feels about her decision now, and what's next. All right. Welcome back, Lori. I'm so excited to have you back on the podcast.
It is great to be back on the podcast. She Hit Refresh is always my favorite podcast.
I love it. This is 3 times that you've been on. So for those who maybe haven't listened to the previous episodes, which you guys should, can you give us a high-level look into your life before you moved to Spain? Because I think the secret's out. You have been living in Spain, and we're going to be talking about your life in Spain over the last 4 years. But for those who don't know the backstory, let us know, who was Lori before she moved?
Lori was about as regular as my name. I had a very normal life. I had a job in academia. I was a professor of journalism at Temple University in Philadelphia. I'm originally from Wisconsin, but haven't lived there since I left home for college. So my trajectory was college, graduate school, a career in journalism in New York City, where I lived for over a decade, built my career. Then I had kids, moved to Philadelphia because I was doing a lot of entertainment journalism in New York City. So going to a lot of parties and events and following celebrities around. So once I had kids, I had to transition out of that and again, found a career in academia. Never dreamt about a career in academia, but it was a very comfortable place to land because I could continue being a journalist, but not at such a high pace. I love working with young people. I love teaching. It allowed me to build my family. I had 3 children and continued to write, published 4 books. I had a good life doing the things that I'd always wanted to do. I wanted to be a writer, and being a journalist, being in academia allowed me to do that in a safe way where I had a steady paycheck that landed in my bank account, good health insurance, lived in a nice neighborhood, and that was my life. I mean, it was a good life.
Love that. Okay. Thank you for the recap, because I think it just shows people like you weren't moving on a whim. Like you actually had a lot of things that you had to think about, which is what we're about here at She Hit Refresh. You were making decisions and there was a lot at risk, right? You were leaving a lot of security and you had a well-established life in the U.S.
Absolutely. Very secure. And that's kind of what I was working towards, was security, right? Like even the fact that I was in academia, I had a tenure track position, which meant if I worked hard enough, did what I was supposed to do, I could literally secure my job for the rest of my life. Like tenure means they can't fire you unless you do something egregious. So it was security of my job. Also, if I, at long enough at this one institution, I would get free tuition for my children. That's 3 kids, 3 free college tuition. It was all about security. And of course, again, I enjoyed the work I was doing, but the parts that were hard, the parts that I didn't like, it was all sacrifice for security.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to hear more about this, please go back to episode 9 where we dive into this in more detail. But I want to fast forward to Spain. But can you remind our listeners again, why Spain?
Yes. So I married a Spaniard. I met my husband when I did my junior year of college abroad in Salamanca, Spain. We got married. We talked about where should we live, the US or Spain. But at the time, way back in the early 90s, Spain's economy just didn't offer the same level of possibilities and opportunities. So we made a life in the US with the idea that we would spend our summers in Spain in the academic year in the US, but it never really happened in the sense that it just got too expensive, too busy. Our lives just were lifing. So we weren't able to live part-time in the US, part-time in Spain. I think that was a glamorous idea, but it just wasn't possible. So we chose Spain because my husband's family was here and his parents were aging. And personally, I'd always loved Spain. Like I said, I did my junior year of college here. I've just always been infatuated with the culture and the country. And as a younger person, I had always dreamt of living a global life. Like I became a writer because I wanted to not be tethered to one particular place in the world. So Spain was an opportunity for my husband to reconnect with his family. It was an opportunity for us to have our children connect with their other culture. And it was an opportunity for me to live out my fantasies of living abroad.
Love it. And in our previous 2 episodes that we recorded together, one of them was literally 9 days before you were going to move. And then we caught up with you 6 months after your move. And I want to fast forward to that part, the 6 months after. We had you on the podcast, but still curious to know, looking back now with hindsight, what do you remember most about those first few months in Spain? How does your life look and feel now? Like, how is it different from those first few months?
What was unusual about our situation is that we moved in the middle of the pandemic. So it wasn't a ideal time to move. And, I wouldn't change anything. However, looking at my life now, one of the things that's missing is that feeling of community, having friends. And if we hadn't moved in the middle of the pandemic, when we got here, I know the first thing I would have done would have been join clubs or gone to meetups and thrown my kids into summer camp situations and things like that. But at the time, it was like, don't go anywhere. Don't connect. You don't want to get COVID. Everybody was still masking. A lot of things weren't even open to have kind of meetups and things like that. So that would have been the only difference is when I had gotten here, if I had made more of an effort to immerse myself in the culture, not the culture, but the people, like whether they had been expats like myself, other immigrant groups. But the reality was that I just didn't do anything to meet people. And so now in like year 4, I'm kind of starting that process now, but I've already established kind of a lifestyle here that doesn't involve going to meetups and the things that you would do when you first arrive somewhere.
That makes sense. I mean, we moved here around the same time. I moved here to Malaga in 2020 from Madrid, and you moved in 2021. And the same thing, those first few years of COVID, people just weren't gathering in the same way. So I feel the same way. Like I've been here almost 5 years and I still am searching for my community to an extent because usually when you move somewhere, like finding friends is a priority, but it just wasn't part of either of our moves. So I get that. I feel like we're both in the same place now too, where we want to now prioritize community and find our people.
There's a lot of research about children who were born at the top of the pandemic and looking at their social skills, but also like adults, there's that lingering effect of missing out on some sort of socialization, and it manifests in different ways, but that is a real thing. If you move to a new place in the middle of the pandemic, you missed out on that new girl energy to go out and meet people and do all the things. And you don't necessarily have that 4 years later because you're just trying to pay your rent and get on with life. But you need to spend time. Like finding community and finding friends is what you have to be proactive about.
I know that you had visited Spain many times, as you mentioned before, so it wasn't completely new, but living here is a bit different. In the 4 years that you've been here, what have been some of the biggest surprises, both positive and maybe not so positive, about building a life in Spain?
Okay, Seppi. this answer is probably not going to be the answer you were thinking, but I really thought about this. And the biggest surprise is that I didn't have any culture shock. Let me back up a little bit. For those who don't know, I took a class with Seppi, actually, part of She Hit Refresh, to prepare myself to really make this move, to really decide if this was something I really wanted to do or it was just a whim. And one of the things that Seppi had us do that was so powerful was to really kind of face our fears, name our fears, talk back to our fears so they couldn't hold us back. And one of my biggest fears was that something bad would happen. So I went extra on figuring out, like, what are all the things that people don't prepare for in moving abroad? And one of those things was, like, you get that honeymoon feeling after the first few months, but then it just, like, everything hits you, culture shock, missing family. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be ready for that. Not like I could do anything, but I just didn't want to set myself up that the honeymoon period was just going to last and last. That was my big shock. It did. I kept waiting for this, like, honeymoon thing to end, or culture shock to hit, or regrets or doubts to creep in. And it never did. And that actually was surprising. And I would stop sometimes and think, why is that? Is it because I'd been to Spain many times over the course of the time that I met my husband, which was when I was 21 years old? Was it because I just loved Spain so much? Was it because I spoke Spanish? And I don't have a reason, because, for one, living someplace is not the same thing as visiting. Two, Malaga is a completely different city for both my husband and I. We're away from friends and family. As I mentioned, I don't have a strong community here, but I've felt so at home here. It's been surprising to me how happy I am in Malaga. I love the sun. There have been dark times, or times when I was really frustrated or angry or just disappointed with certain things in my life. And those things still happen, but all I do is go outside, and that beautiful sun and the beautiful flowers and the colors. The ocean is like minutes from my house. Oh, and the mountains. Oh my God. I didn't realize how beautiful and majestic mountains are. Surrounded by mountains and ocean, I am, like, blissfully happy most days, which is surprising. I didn't know I could be this upbeat all the time. I'm surprised how my mood has just remained pretty stable. And I'm a woman of a certain age when my mood should be dipping down like crazy. And I'm like, I think just like seasonal affective disorder can make people really blue in the winter months, I'm like, I got the opposite. I got the happy sunshine effect. For me, I think the takeaway is that the research that we did, the preparations that we did, and the reasons why I came to Spain, because they were all real. They weren't like, oh, I just want a better life, or I want to escape racism. Nah, that had nothing to do with it. It was about my family. It was about my personal quality of life. It was about the things I could do with my career. So all those things happened because I did the research and I knew what I was getting into. So I think that's why this worked. But the sun was just an extra perk. The sun and the, like, natural beauty of this place was just an extra perk. So that was my one unexpected, but it was a positive.
I love that for you. And I also love that the dream life you envision, like, it kind of seems maybe it was met or even exceeded the expectations, because I think sometimes they romanticize that idea of living abroad so much, and sometimes it doesn't live up to that. But in your case, it has, and then some.
Yeah, because it was all very practical. I was like, I want to move to Spain so I can do the work I want to do and still have health insurance and send my kids to college without going bankrupt. Those were very practical reasons. So it's like, check one, check two. I don't think health insurance is romantic, Seppi, nor is college tuition. Nothing romantic about it. It's very practical, but it's something that you stress about, or you can stress about your whole life. And when that stress is removed, you have space for so much more positive things to focus on. So yeah, I think it was the planning and managing your expectations. Mm-hmm. I think I did a good job at that. Thanks to you. And She Hit Refresh.
Thank you. Yeah, the course that Lori's talking about was one that I had called Make It Happen that I don't do anymore, but it was actually the precursor to my master class and the Refreshers Lounge now. So if you're interested in working together, you can go to shehhitrefresh.com/masterclass to find out more information. So let's talk about that vision that you had for your life then, because you're talking about some of the practical stuff. But when you first made the move, you probably had in your mind what life would look like for you, right? What you would be doing, how you would be spending your time. How does your actual experience right now of how you're living match up to what you imagined?
You guys, honestly, Seppi is not paying me. She did not prep me and be like, mention my name and she hit refresh for every answer. But it's like, I have to give credit where credit's due. Anybody who is thinking about doing Seppi's masterclass or joining the lounge, the magic of it is not like the visas and the taxes and all that information, which is actually super helpful. The magic is the mindset stuff, because that's where the difference happens between the person who takes action and the person who doesn't. So for me, when you ask, how does my life look today based on what I expected? You asked us to write it down. What do you want your life to look like, right? And to use that as kind of your guidepost and your why when things get difficult. And I actually went and pulled that book out. That was done during the pandemic in 2020. I saved the notebook and my life looks almost exactly like I wanted it to. I wanted to be making a living, doing creative writing. I wanted to write more books. I wanted to work with other creative writers. And I wanted to live in a house with a citrus tree in the front. And I don't want it to sound like this all happened magically. It literally took me, and I looked this up, it literally took me 2 years before I actually kind of believed in that dream, because I got to Spain, and even though I wrote it down, even though I knew what I wanted, I was still afraid and thinking like a typical American, like work, and was kind of just continuing to do the work I was doing in the US. But I did eventually got to it, changed my focus, allowed myself to focus on creative writing. And now my life does look exactly like I wanted it to. And I literally laugh because it's like I fought myself. I fought my own dreams because it sounded too good to be true. You got to do the work, hard work, hard work, hard work. This is the part that even just gets me, where I'm like, this is crazy. We ended up renting an apartment and I was like, well, everything can't come true. But I literally in the last year, I just realized that the tree in the front of our building is a lemon tree. And it hadn't given fruit until a year ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lemon tree in our front yard. And our superintendent gives my husband and I the lemons sometimes. And I'm like, okay, it's all done. Check, 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 check. It's all come true. It doesn't necessarily look exactly how you want it, but still, like, it's not a house, but I love my apartment. And heck, we got lemons growing in the front yard. Done.
Love that. Oh my gosh. Thank you for the kind words. And yeah, y'all, I didn't know Lori's going to be sharing any of this. So thank you so much, Lori. But it's been such a joy to see you on this journey, because we've been together since before you moved. And then, as I've mentioned, Lori is now basically my neighbor, because we both live in Malaga and we meet every other week. And so just getting to see you settle into your life here and how you are moving even more towards that vision that you had. Because I know the first few years, we're also just trying to figure things out, start a new life from scratch in a new country. So it does take some time, but to see you really live your dream has been incredible. I do have some questions about maybe just on your journey. Are there things that feel easier now than in the beginning? And is there anything that still feels hard even 4 years later?
The only thing that feels hard, it's getting harder, is my parents aging. The first 2 years I was here, my mom came actually to Spain by herself. She's 78 right now. So she was 76 and 77. Like, really hadn't done any international travel in a long time. And the last time she did it was probably 20 years previous. And she got on a plane by herself and came to Spain twice, like year 1 and year 2, I was here. And then she had a serious health crisis and hasn't been the same since, requiring me to actually do an emergency trip back to the US at one point. And now both of my parents are, I wouldn't say they're in failing health, but they're definitely more frail and require more assistance. So that has been that thing. And I think that's that thing that everybody wonders about. And if you move young enough, maybe your parents are fine, they visit, but eventually something's going to give, right? So I think that's probably been the biggest challenge, is figuring out what to do with your aging parents. I am not an only child. I have 2 siblings who thankfully both live close to each other. and I have a rather large extended family. So when I left, I knew I wasn't like leaving my parents unattended, but it is the eternal question of what's going to happen. How do I do my part from afar? What am I responsible for? And yeah, and it's like a never ending thing until they settle somewhere or something. And the thing is, just when you think something is settled, something else happens. So my mom had this health scare, and then my dad had to get his knee replaced. And so I think that is probably one of the hardest things to deal with, because it's not a static fix it and forget it, right? It's not, oh, I found the solution and it's over. We know that eventually your parents are going to die. So it's just something that's kind of in the back of your mind. And when you're so far away, you're going to question like, oh, should I be here? Should I do something differently? Was this the right thing to do? And it's just like a constant thing running in the back of your head. And then the other thing would be my son, my middle son. He started college in the Netherlands, had a great year, but ended up not returning because the housing situation in the Netherlands is so difficult. Student housing is not guaranteed. We couldn't find a house, room, anything for him for his second year. And it was a decision. Luckily, he was actually questioning whether this was the right program for him anyway. If he had found housing, he would have completed his degree, no problem. But since it wasn't like something he was really happy with, he decided to step away from that school, and he's taking a gap year and is going to be applying to new schools. So that also was a big challenge, figuring out college in Europe. Every country is different. My son didn't want to go to university in Spain. He wanted to do a degree in English. So that's why we looked at the Netherlands. We looked at Germany. But the point is that also puts you as the parent who's supposed to be able to lead your child through these big life milestones and not being the expert. That's difficult. So either you put a lot more responsibility on the child, or you spend a lot of time trying to learn a whole new university system. The college thing, it hasn't been a challenge where I like regret or it's terrible. In fact, it's been kind of fun because we get to go college tripping all over Europe. And that was exciting to visit Amsterdam and Utrecht and other cities in the Netherlands. Man, I worked in academia for so long. I understand the university system in the US. I sometimes I think I know the perfect school my son would have done well at in the US. So that's another thing where I don't want to act like it's a regret. It's not a doubt. It's just something that is a challenge that I, of course, couldn't have anticipated before coming.
That makes sense. And since we're talking about your son, I have a question about your children then, because they've been here 4 years too then, and you moved with two of your three. Your oldest stayed back, but for your two children here in Spain, how have they adjusted to life over the past few years?
My kids are doing great. And it's funny because, of course, nobody knows how their children will respond to a major move like the one we did. My children are 16 and 9. So my eldest had done 11th grade in his bedroom during the pandemic. So we were like, I think it's fine if he redoes 11th grade in Spain. High school in Spain is very rigid, a lot of memorization. It was very challenging for him, very challenging. But he did a great job in that he passed through 11th grade. He passed through 12th grade. He had a lot of tutors. He needed a lot of help. But he passed, graduated, and then you have to take a standardized test. It's way harder than the SATs. It's more like the A levels in England, if people are familiar with that. And you get 2 chances to take the test, and you have to get that test to attend university anywhere in Europe. You need that test. And so he needed so much tutoring. He couldn't take it the first time. He only had 1 chance to take it and pass it. And he did, which was like, we all cried. Like literally, we all cried because it was such an incredible feat. Spanish young people don't pass. Sometimes they have to wait another full year to try again to pass it. And so that experience for him, this is a child who is very intelligent, but kind of academically lazy, because he could get away with not doing a lot of studying in the US and still manage to get decent grades, but not in Spain. So even though it was so challenging and he didn't get to go to prom, some of the things that he missed out on, I think what he learned about his own ability to persevere is a lesson that is going to take him everywhere and anywhere. There's nothing he believes he can't do now because he made it through that grueling system, all of that studying, and he passed the biggest, hardest test. So when we sent him off to university in the Netherlands by himself, I mean, I took him, of course, and got his dorm room set up and all the mommy stuff, but leaving him there, it was like, I mean, I did the Spain thing. I can do the Netherlands. It's in English, right? Like he just figures things out now. And to see him before, like the kid who we brought from the US to the kid he is now, it's incredible. So I'm saying that like for any parents who are listening who are wondering like, oh, I heard it's challenging or might be hard. Yeah, it was hard. But if your kid makes it through, then they get such a sense of accomplishment. And really and truly, I can see the change in him. This is a kid who didn't like to travel. He didn't want to try new things. Now he's kind of up for anything and doesn't have the same kind of fears and worries that he used to. So that was great. And of course, his Spanish improved. He made friends in Spain. He made friends in the Netherlands, which was so amazing because those kids were from all over the world. And he stayed in touch with all of these different kids in his life. And he still is in touch with his friends from the US, which is another thing I want to just assure parents that thanks to the internet, literally, he still plays video games with his friends from high school. His friends from high school came to the Netherlands and hung out with him. They did their little backpacking across Europe and stopped and hung out with my son. So the connections that these kids can still maintain, it doesn't mean just because you take them to another country that they're never going to see their friends again. So that was that child. And then my daughter, she was 10. She started public school in our neighborhood at a very cute little neighborhood school. And her Spanish improved so much. She speaks like a native speaker already. She's embarrassed by me. She just does all the talking if we're out together. She's doing really well in school. She's now in 8th grade, which is kind of like the beginning of high school here in Spain. And she's just a regular Spanish kid. She started violin when she was in kindergarten in the States. She still takes her violin lessons and started dancing in the States, does ballet and modern dance here, but in local neighborhood dance studios. So in terms of what people might have thought, she might have lost or had to give up, nothing. Her life looks incredibly similar to what it looked like in the States. What I think is a little bit better is that just because of where we lived in Philadelphia, she's been able to go to school. She's been able to do her dance lessons, her music lessons, all in our neighborhood. So she can take herself to school. She can take herself to her classes, and it's all very safe and easy. So she can have a bit more independence here than she would at this age in the States. If she had to do the same life, be driving everywhere, zip zapping all over the place to take her here and there, I would have never let her go to school by herself. Literally just the other day, a kid was shot to death on a bus in Philadelphia where we lived. The idea of what she does now here would not happen. I would be that nervous mom, like taking her everywhere in my car. So my children, I think, have both really excelled. They've been very resilient. But I do want to say this again, because I know people are listening with kids and they wonder about these things. I talk to them regularly, like we do check-ins, and we did more when we first got here. Are you okay? Are you sad? Do you miss your friends? In the early days, I was setting up Zoom calls for my daughter with her friends back home because she really missed them. She was having a good time here, but she did miss her friends. And my son had a breakdown at some point because he was just so sad, so frustrated. Things were so hard. So you talk about it. You don't act like nothing's wrong or just throw yourself into it. But it also doesn't mean just because they're sad that you made a mistake or they have to go back home. Both of them can say now, yeah, we miss certain things about the US, but they also can both say that they're happy they're here. My son, as much as he really wonders if he had been able to finish high school in the US and gone to college in the US and had that normal life, what his life would look like now. But he doesn't regret it, and he still plans on living in Europe. Like, it's not a zero-sum game. I'm not going to say all kids are resilient because I've heard stories that things didn't work out. But I think if you keep the communication open, if you expect and prepare for the things to be hard, tutors, Zoom calls, whatever you have to do to ease the transition for kids, and then base it on your kids, right? Don't base it on what other people have said or done. See what your kids need. But I feel very blessed that my kids have enjoyed this process. I do think it does matter also, though, that they are half Spanish. So they feel that they belong here. They just have to figure out how to navigate that.
Thank you so much. I know the parents out there who are listening really appreciated that, to hear that insight. And again, for anyone listening, you can go back to episode 9 and 40, where we also talked to Lori about her kids 9 days before she was moving and 6 months in. You mentioned missing the US, or like your son misses it. I'm curious about you. Do you ever miss the US? And do you ever imagine yourself moving back, or is it kind of Spain forever?
No and no. I don't miss it, and no, I don't have any plans on going back. And that's another thing that I really thought about before leaving. I mean, moving with 2 kids, the work that it takes. I mean, it's so much work. And also my kids threatened me. I don't ever want to move again, ever. But no, really and truly. And I think this goes back to my not having the culture shock, not having the regrets or the missing anything. I don't think I have a nomadic spirit. That's not me. I'm a homebody. I like to have a home, but I think I got what I needed to out of the United States. I've always had an eye towards elsewhere. I was obsessed with Josephine Baker when I was little, who moved to France and adopted those kids from all over the world and was like a spy. Like, I've always been fascinated by the kind of immigrant, expat, traveler experience. Like Amelia Earhart was another person who I was like obsessed with. These women who live these bold lives, traveling, living in other parts of the world. I don't have any animosity towards the US. My family's all there, but I don't feel anything pulling me back there. Maybe that was a surprise too. Like, I don't feel anything pulling me back there. Not even my family. Like, I love them, but I'm like, not enough to move back. Even when I think about, oh my gosh, my mom is really ailing, I'm not like, oh, I got to go back. I'm like, how do I get her here? That's my thought process. So no, nope.
Love hearing that. I'm the same. I also feel the USA, no way, as where I want to live. Love visiting. Again, my family's there too, and I have a great time every time I go. But that desire I just don't envision. I don't see myself when I look into the future. Yeah.
Yeah. No crystal ball, Lori, in the US.
Let's talk about, because people are probably wondering, okay, so you're living in Spain, but what are you doing for work? And you are just multi-talented. As you've mentioned, you've worked in academia, but you're also a published writer. You're a public speaker, podcaster, a literary influencer. So what does that mean for your life now? What does your work life look like these days?
I actually just did get business cards, like actual paper cards. And I was like, what is it that I do? If I had to put it in one title, I would say I'm a literary activist, because I create content and I work to uplift BIPOC writers and storytellers of BIPOC heritage. So I write fiction and creative nonfiction, but I also run a community supporting BIPOC women writers. That support looks like just holding space for these writers, but also providing opportunities for them to get their work published, get paid for their work, holding workshops for them. So the community is called the Read, Write, and Create Sanctuary. And I also have a podcast. I have a YouTube channel. I'm literally trying to put work out into the world and uplift organizations, people, places, things that are also supporting and celebrating BIPOC writers. I personally believe that stories and storytelling are the way that we are going to heal the world, because stories and storytelling are the ways that we've ruined the world. And I mean that by the stories that people have told, usually men who have written our history books and told us what really happened or why things are the way they are. Often those are false narratives. So if we get new narratives written by people whose voices have often been silenced or whose stories are ignored or erased, we could literally rewrite the way the world works. So it is with that kind of initiative and goals that I do this work that I do today. But it's work that I love, right? So I consider myself a literary activist. When I was in the States, I just considered myself more of a racial activist, right? Trying to work on DEI initiatives and racial healing, things like that. And it wore me out and made me really sad all the time. And it just was like debilitating work, like spiritually debilitating. But I love books. I love writing. I love reading. And so that's what the work that I do now. Like literally, I created a business that allows me to do the things that I love in a way that I know is also making the world a better place. So that is, again, the brand is Read, Write, and Create, and all of the work that I do to support and celebrate BIPOC writers, BIPOC stories, BIPOC storytellers comes out underneath that brand. So I guess you could call me a literary entrepreneur also, because that's the work that I do. And I do writing coaching. I sometimes do ghostwriting. But again, it all has to uplift BIPOC stories and storytellers.
So powerful. I love when you say that every time you say that storytelling can heal the world. I'm curious to know, because Read, Write, Create, that's something that you created after you moved to Spain. How did living abroad or moving abroad play a part in finding maybe this, I don't know if it's the new creative voice, but maybe creating new goals for yourself and becoming a literary entrepreneur?
So, Seppi, I'm sorry. I'm going to go back to your class. Because, I mean, honestly, the teacher, Seppi, asked us to plot out, what would your perfect life look like? What would you want to be doing? And that's what made me chuckle and bring this notebook out, because I wrote down what I wanted to be doing. I was like, I want to have a blog and a podcast. It's all about reading and writing. I didn't have the community part, but I knew what I wanted to do. And so I went back to that original plan. Let me back up. Like I said earlier, when I got to Spain, I was like, yes, I want to write and do this, but I was too afraid to. I thought I had to keep doing the work that I had been doing in the US to make money, or I had to create some kind of hardcore business that just sounded official. I didn't believe that I could do what I love and make money. That's not possible, right? Making money has to hurt or be unpleasant. But I took a pause, literally like a 3-month pause, and reflected, kind of got back in touch with the things that I loved the most about writing and reading, and opened up that notebook I did in class with Seppi and was like, oh, I guess I already had a basic plan of what I could do. Why don't I just try that? This was not like I had zero money and I was just hoping it would work. I did have money saved, which I'd planned for. It was like the energy of saying, hey, you just changed your entire life. You moved across the world. You're starting a new life. You owe it to yourself to do what you said you wanted to do. And funny enough, as soon as I put the energy into the thing I said I wanted to do, doors just kept opening. I did a tiny little creative writing class to see, would people actually pay me to do the things I wanted to do? And it worked. And then I went next level. What about doing a retreat? And then, so I had a retreat where I invited BIPOC women writers to come spend a week with me in the south of Spain to do writing, et cetera, et cetera. That went really well. They asked for a community. So that was the beginning of the Read, Write, and Create Sanctuary. It was literally, again, opening yourself up to the things you want to do. Let people know that you're open to doing the work that you claim you want to do. And sure enough, that led to the next thing, led to the next thing, led to a podcast. I had done podcasting in the past. I had tried to make it work as a business, but I wasn't passionate about it. Once I started podcasting about my literary heroes and inviting authors that I really admire who are telling stories that celebrate BIPOC storytellers, I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And that podcast won a Best Podcast Award by the Black Podcasting Association the year I launched it. So it was like the universe kept showing me that I was doing the right thing. And now today, the Read, Write, and Create brand includes this award-winning podcast. It includes the Sanctuary community, which is people are literally knocking down my doors trying to join at this point. So again, the work is happening easily. I don't have to push it. I have more work than I know what to do with. People are asking me to be their literary coach, their writing coach, which I do as well. Like, I don't even advertise, because I feel like when you are working in alignment with your true purpose and your true mission, it works. And I don't want to sound woo about that. It's just the proof has been my life. And again, I look at it, I wrote it down in Seppi's class, went against it, ignored it, pretend it didn't exist. And then when I found it again, I was like, maybe I should try this thing I promised myself I would do if I made the move to Spain. And now it works really well. Yeah, so everything is working in alignment with what I wanted to do. I said I wanted to spend the second half of my life really focusing on reading and writing in a creative way, not just journalism and academia. And that's what I'm doing.
Love that. Thank you for, giving us the insight there. And again, it's been incredible to see this journey because I know like you are a literary entrepreneur, and as entrepreneurs, we have to try many things till we figure out what works. So I have seen the behind the scenes over the years here with you. And I have to say, for those that are curious about the Refreshers Lounge or in the Refreshers Lounge, I have to thank Lori a lot for making that come to life, because we started our communities around the same time, and the Refreshers Lounge came from a lot of encouragement from Lori of, you have to do this. This is what your community needs after having thrown spaghetti at the wall. And I have to say as well, the Refreshers Lounge, it's just been so incredible to see what that kind of container, how it's actually impacting people, which I'm sure you're seeing in the sanctuary. Just a real quick on the sanctuary for those that are interested. I'm curious to know, like, how do you see the sanctuary evolving, and what are your hopes long term?
What's been really interesting, making a life out of the thing that you love the most. So I'm a writer first. I'm working on a novel. I just discovered I like to write poetry. Like, that's the beauty of this life that I'm leading now, is that I'm allowing myself to really explore all of my creative interests as a writer. And so I have realized how beneficial writing in community is. People think writing is a solitary endeavor, when in fact, it's actually so much better in community. And so what we do in the sanctuary is virtual for the most part. We have co-writing sessions, we have writing workshops, we bring in speakers to help our writers fashion their careers in the way they want to, help them get published, things like that. But the best thing, again, is being in community. So moving forward, I'd like to try to figure out how to do more in-person events for our sanctuary members. We do have meetups. We've had meetups in the past, but only kind of haphazardly. So if I can figure out how to create kind of an annual sanctuary meetup, also to encourage our members to maybe figure out how to deputize them, if you will, somehow, so that we can have in-person gatherings on a more regular basis. Because at the end of the day, especially in the world we're living in now, having those connections and connections with people who love the same things you do, it's so powerful. So moving forward, that's what I would love to do in terms of the sanctuary, is to create more in-person opportunities for our members to connect. And then personally, because I consider my work all encompassing, like my personal writing as well as the content I create. So I recently launched a YouTube channel called Literary Lori, and my goal with the YouTube channel is to share more literary experiences that kind of decolonize the literary canon. So showcasing how diversity shows up in literary world. So a lot of people think of book festivals that happen in England and Scotland, like the Edinburgh Literary Festival, and there's a lot of amazing literary festivals in the UK and England particularly, which are all great. But there are also amazing literary festivals in Dubai and Singapore. Not to push our country, Seppi, but Spain is an amazing country that has so many literary festivals. There's like a literal book festival in every little village and town in Spain. And they have a huge one in Barcelona. My goal is to get people excited about reading and all things literary in ways that go beyond the kind of typical stories that we hear about the most, which often come from England. There are so many other audiences and English speakers that go beyond US and UK. And so my goal with my YouTube channel and this mission to kind of, again, diversify the literary canon and the literary world, that's what I want to be doing more of, is to take my love of travel and literacy and literary things and combine them and do my part to get people excited about more diverse reading and writing.
So exciting. I love this new phase for you, or this new chapter. We're getting towards the end here of the podcast, but I'm really curious to know if 4 years here, do you feel at home in Spain, or is that still a work in progress?
I recently spent a month living in a library in Ghana on a writing residency, which was incredible. I've never been to sub-Saharan Africa before, so that was my first time in Ghana. And living in a library, as I'm sure anybody can tell, I love reading and writing. That was a dream come true. And I didn't go to Ghana and think, oh, I think I want to live in Ghana now. But I think what happens when you move abroad, especially if this is like your first time moving abroad, is that it unlocks something in you, which is, I don't have to live anywhere. Like I could live anywhere. I don't believe, I've heard you talk about having a soul city, a soulmate city, right? I think you can have a soulmate city, but like you could also be a city hoe. Like you could be like, I love all the cities. I could be happy with any of the cities. And I feel like that's what has happened to me. So like the first 2 years, I was like, oh my God, I think I belong in Malaga. This is where I was meant to be. But then because of pandemic, I didn't do as much traveling because you just couldn't, or it wasn't as safe. And now that I feel free to travel more and see more of the world, there's no doubt that my home base is going to be in Spain. That's a given. But I don't know. I might be that person who you're like, where's Lori? I just want to see more of the world. I think that's all I can say. And maybe after a few more years or another decade, I'll just want to settle down with my lemon tree and just be settled down. But I think that's where I am at the 4-year point, is like, Spain's cool, but what else is out there, right? Because if I could do that move, the big move, why can't I at least explore more? So I think that's where I am today.
Also very exciting. I feel like, yeah, I moved into that phase last year where I was like, Spain is cool, but I'm itching to be on the road and have a little bit more of a digital nomad life. Like the same where Spain is my base, but spending time in other places. So I'm excited for you to see where you're going to be going off to.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I have kids still. Like my daughter's only 13, so I can't just I've tried to convince her she too wants to get up and leave, but no, and understandably, she's 13. Her friends are important. But if she was ready to like get up and go, I'd be like, come on, let's do that whole world schooling thing and we can just flit around everywhere. But I mean, I'll do it on small doses at this point, which is fine. Because like I said, I think intrinsically I am a homebody. Like when I'm home, I like being home. But now I've seen so much more of the world. It's like, what else is out there?
Definitely. Your story has resonated with women over the years. When I meet people who've listened to the podcast, they really remember your story. And so you've just inspired so many women in our community. So I think I've asked you this before in the podcast, but let's see now, having made your move abroad and been here a while, what would you say to a woman out there who's listening, who's been dreaming of making this move, but is still on the fence for whatever reason?
I'm going to probably say the same thing. I haven't listened to the last episodes, but I'm like, take Seppi's class or join the lounge. And I'm not saying that because Seppi is the most amazing guru in the whole wide world. I mean, I think she's great. But the point and the reason is because it's really important to do two things. One is to really get your mindset right. Ask yourself the right questions. Are you doing this for the right reasons? Personally, I'm afraid that too many people are moving abroad because it's trendy, because they're afraid of what's happening in the political situation right now, because their friends doing it, because they saw it on Instagram, because they think it seems cool to have like baguettes for breakfast instead of Wonder Bread. But that's not the reason. Living abroad sucks in a lot of ways, like taxes, when you don't understand, getting sick and having to go to a hospital where you don't speak the language. Like that is not fun. I don't care. All the healthcare is better. But if you don't speak the language, it's not better. It's scary. It's really scary to have something seriously wrong with you. And even if you speak well, but you're not a perfect speaker, no. So all the things that could happen badly in the United States could happen in your new country. So going through the actual mindset questions, thoughts that Seppi does in all of her courses and her lounge and things like that, that's the one big thing that, and I know Seppi's very honest about these things. She's not like these people online who are, oh, move abroad, your life will be better. There's no racism. Oh, come on, please. And I'm Black. You can see that on the YouTube channel. There's racism, there's sexism, there's violence, there's all bad things everywhere. So don't fool yourself. That's the one thing, is you have to do the good mental work, which I think you heard I've done. I had very real expectations, real reasons for wanting to move that had nothing to do with fantasies. Number two, being in community. The reason I was able to move abroad, I think, and have a real, not be afraid of certain things and to go into things with a real solid, clear set of expectations was because I was listening to other people who had done it or were doing it. And I had other people to talk to and to learn from. And that comes from being in community. Being in community with other people who are doing this normalizes the experience. So you don't have to feel like you're doing crazy things. So if you have legitimate questions, you're not asking somebody who doesn't know, who could give you false information. So find that community and find the person, place, or thing that is going to allow you to process mentally what you need to do, what you should be asking yourself, and how to prepare. And one thing we didn't mention was the money preparation. That is the other thing that really made the difference for me, was how I prepared for finances. I've seen too many people asking their financial questions on Facebook groups. Don't do that. Like, you need to get real financial information, preparation that is not from a Facebook group. I mean, you can ask for maybe resources, but your finances really should be in shape about eliminating debt, savings, knowing how to put your investments in the right place, all that stuff. You don't want to just move ahead and not think about your finances, because ultimately that's what's going to allow you to have the life you want, is that your finances are in order and that you're not stressed about them. Because I've also seen people move abroad and have to go back for financial reasons that could have been avoided if they had made better plans. So that's my suggestion, is to get into a community and find somebody who can help you ask or prepare with these very specific things that a lot of people don't want to talk about. They just want to be like, find your perfect place, move abroad as fast as you can. You won't stay. You won't stay abroad. You can move abroad. Anybody can move abroad. It's easy now with digital nomad visas. Just go. But if you don't make a plan to stay, you'll probably be back sooner rather than later.
Thank you so much for that. That was very kind of you, but I definitely agree. Like, we are all about helping women not just move abroad, but thrive abroad, right? And make a sustainable move abroad. As Lori said, I've seen it too. Many women who've had to just move back home because they didn't prepare financially and just ran out of money.
You don't want to run out of money anywhere, but you really don't want to run out of money in another country. No.
Yeah. And not in your 30s,
scary.
40s, 50s, and beyond. It's a little different maybe if you're straight out of college. But Lori, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This has been incredible, and hope everyone enjoyed the updates here. Now I think there's some more places where people can find you. So where should people look who want to get in contact with you or who are interested in working with you?
You just go to LoriLTharps.com. I blog about my life there. You can find links to my YouTube channel, Literary Lori, and my Instagram, and that's Lori L. Tharps. But everything, you can find all the links at LoriLTharps.com.
Fabulous. And we will drop them in the show notes. Lori, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure getting this update from you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and leave feeling like a move abroad is even more possible for you. If you're happy with what you saw, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave a question or comment, because I would love to hear from you. If you're ready to take action on your dream to move abroad, be sure to grab my Visa Guide to Europe. It's your roadmap to over 50 viable visa options in 19 countries. You can grab the link below in the show notes. And don't forget to get on the wait list for my next Move Abroad After 30 Masterclass, a masterclass for women age 30 and up, which is a step-by-step training to help you fast-track your move abroad. You can grab the link in the show notes as well. And last but not least, a huge shout out to our sponsor, International Living. Thank you so much for making this season possible. Until next time, ciao for now.